All right, thank you so very much, everyone, for joining H.O.P.S Fireside Chat. My name is Bola H.O.P.S. I'm a co-founder and also will be hosting this Fireside Chat. We're privileged to have our grand mentor, father. We were talking, myself, the leadership of H.O.P.S, we're talking while we're putting this together. And we're like, no, come on, we shouldn't be saying Deji Ishmael. We should like Uncle Deji, Uncle Deji.
Oh, come on,
guys. Yeah, so I will spend 1 or 2 minutes just to let you know what H.O.P.S is about. After that, I'll hand over to Taiwo, who will facilitate the session. So H.O.P.S stands for Helping Other People Succeed. It's a social enterprise that helps professionals transform their mindset and their career by providing mentoring, coaching, resume development, and all sort of services that will help them towards career and mindset transformation. We've been around for 2 years. We're planning our second anniversary. We've been around for 2 years and we've expanded. So we started in Canada, but we've expanded beyond North America, Asia, Africa, and the rest of the world. You can check us out, www.hopsglobal.org. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn. And let's see how we can support you. All right, so I'll hand over to Taiwo, and he will literally take over from here. Taiwo.
Thank you, Bola. That was a quick one. I would first like to introduce our guest before we delve into the purpose of today's meeting. Uncle Deji, as we like to call him.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, he's a versatile executive consultant coach with over 18 years of management and leadership experience. He has held leadership positions in a number of successful organizations across Europe, United States, and Africa, with experience in the sectors like technology, financial services, oil and gas, government agencies, and private companies. He serves as regional mentor for Project Management Institute and the Association of Change Management Professionals, ACMP, that's based in South Africa. He's a peer consultant with a passionate drive to help CEOs and executive teams to overcome team dysfunction and create powerful organization clarity to lead to profound business and bottom line impact. He is in fact one of the global leaders of the PMI. Growing up, we were like looking at him as one of the frontliners of what Project Management Institute represents back in Nigeria before he moved on to the African region. And he has been like a beacon for most of us. He's a computer science graduate and attended MBA at the Bath and recently concluded an MSc in consulting and coaching for change, a combined program of HEC in France and Oxford University, UK. Uncle Deji, it's a pleasure to have you on this call. I am more than confident that the conversation today is going to be a lot of, will provide a lot of valuable insight to everyone that signed up to be here. And the good thing is also that we record this session and we will post it on our YouTube channels for many other people who might be interested in the subject of the conversation at a later time. So thank you so much. We appreciate your joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. And please feel free to call me Deji. Don't age me, okay? But you know.
Oh my God.
It's just
if I could call my beard to yours, like I could do that.
I put some dusting powder on just before coming on.
Good tip, Bola. We'll start doing that, right? Thank you. So let's get to the business of the day. And I'm going to start by asking a question, and then we will open the floor for other people to field questions. I'm sure we have both Bola and Aditon there looking at the chat section to prompt us if there is any follow-up question we need to attend to. Today, we're going to be talking about change, and the reason we're talking about change right now is because of how inevitable it has become to the success of what businesses do. Prior to the pandemic, there is the idea that change is very important, but we know how resistant people and organizations can be. In fact, I saw something recently that was quite interesting. It's a question that someone asked, that who is leading the change in your organization? And there are options there: the people, the management, or COVID pandemic. Of course, the answer is COVID pandemic. Like the amount of transformation we've seen in a very short time during this pandemic has told us that change is actually more change is actually not as difficult as we've always thought it was. But all of that is just me trying to preempt what this whole conversation is all about. I would leave it to you to tell us what exactly you think change management is, and what benefit you believe change management adds to professionals and businesses.
Okay. Thank you again for having me. I think it's good that you talk about the survey about who is leading change, because I think it's good because, of course, one of the things that comes to my mind, I wrote that down, is, the pandemic is leading us pretty much, made a lot of people kind of like go and do digital transformations quickly, because it was transform or die. Okay, so people didn't really get to have too much options. And so as I'm thinking about that, I realized that it's really about a burning platform. So the whole essence is the pandemic is a burning platform. Nobody, you just respond. It's almost like there's a fire, you run out, right? Somebody says, get out, and they shout, and then you get out. So if we assume that the pandemic is like a burning platform, and one of the things that we do talk about in change management is how do you create a burning platform when the need for the change, or the reason for the change, is not as obvious as a pandemic. Do you understand? Because with the pandemic, it's kind of like easy, you don't have, it's almost like you don't have a choice. And in fact, one of the big challenges that organizations are having now is, last year in 2019, if maybe Q4 2019, if you told a lot of people that the majority of the workforce could be working successfully from home, a lot of people would have come up with so many reasons. It would have been a major change initiative. There would have been so much work to do to get people to work that way. The real challenge I'm facing with some of our clients at the moment is, big clients are trying to get people, large enterprise, trying to get people to come back to the office, because they have an office and they've spent some time to make the place safe and maximize their existing investments. And the big challenge now is people are really saying, actually, why do we have to go back to the office? And so that's it's a big challenge at the moment. Why do we have to go back to the office? We have successfully worked for the past 6 months, and we have gotten used to a different way of working. And so that's big. So the big challenge about change is really around, how do you, when you feel you have to move your organization in a particular way, how do you mobilize the people the way the pandemic mobilized us, when it is not such a dramatic change as the pandemic? So that's really the big thing about change, because at the end of the day, that's the big thing. How do you create a burning platform? And that's the challenge, because not all changes are as dramatic, but more often than not, the changes we decide to embark within organizations is to help us to do business better, maybe help us to be more profitable or have more impact. But, how do you create a pandemic so that everybody goes? Yeah. And
wow, that would be a tough one for anyone to be able to drive change as the pandemic has driven the change in the past 9 months or so. So maybe that's where we talk about PROSCI. Some people I've met who say PROSCI. I'll leave it to you to tell us how it's pronounced and what exactly it is. Is it just an acronym or a brand name or just something that you probably can tell us
put together.
more about?
So the founder of PROSCI, which stands for Professional Science, so it's the Pro in professional and the SCI in science. So the way the owners of the company pronounce it is PROSCI. Yeah. Basically, really is about the founding of PROSCI, about the fact that there was an engineer working on technology systems, and some of them were really successful, and some of them were already quite abysmal in terms of the impact. My experience has been in a lot of technology implementations, the technology is seldom the problem. I'll say to people, SAP can do whatever SAP tells you it can do. But just put in SAP, if other changes are not made, you may not get the results. So that was actually the reason for PROSCI to start up. Like, how do we make sure that more and more initiatives actually, how do we ensure predictability of success for multiple initiatives? Like 2 out of 10 was not enough. How do we make it 8 or 9 out of 10? So, really was what led into the discipline and like the professional science of change. So that's what, that's where PROSCI comes from. And it's, when you get to meet PROSCI, what I like about PROSCI is they're quite specific and deliberate in terms of what they want to do. They just want to lead the pack in terms of creating tools, research, developing best practices to just focus on how do we make change like much more interesting. How do we help companies to ensure that they increase realization of business benefits from whatever changes they are undertaking? It's like, how do we create a bonding platform? Because believe it or not, you can actually create a pandemic in some, you can actually create a pandemic. It's not easy, but it's doable. It's doable by, spending some deliberate effort. It's doable by building, by really asking the question of, sometimes I'm on change initiatives. And, maybe one of my favorites one is a company says we want to introduce electronic workflow or document management systems. And imagine if a company wants to do that and you talk to the sponsor, the man that's paying for it, and say, why? And sometimes the why, the bonding platform is weak. Sometimes it's as weak as, if we're a bank, if we're bank A, sometimes the reason for the change is where bank B are doing it, and maybe that's why they're successful. But imagine if you're able to talk with the sponsor as a change manager, to really help to define, to ask questions, just like we would do in project management, to ask questions so that you can actually come up with a bonding platform. Because it's that bonding platform, doesn't always have to be as dramatic as the pandemic, but it's that bonding platform that gets people connected to whatever initiative and causes them to really want to make it work. So, and PROSCI are dedicated to that. They do research every 2 years. They've got tools that you get as a PROSCI practitioner, so that when, so they don't just focus on change concepts, on the theories of change. It goes beyond that. It says, okay, these are the theories of change. This is how people change. This is how organizations change. Basically organizations change to the extent that people in the organization change. So you understand the theories, the concepts, and then you have a tool to help you to, for instance, do an assessment.
Did we lose him?
Yes, I think we lost him. Can pause the recording while he probably gets back.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, you're back, boy. So yeah, I was just going to be asking the next question that so what we knew was that there is Deji Ishmael leading project management across Africa. He has moved on from Nigeria, and then we heard less of you until I got to the central bank EPMO project, and then I heard that, oh yeah, that's the change guru, is the one championing PROSCI, and probably will be working with him. I was like, oh, really? So my question is, what prompted you to delve into the world of PROSCI?
Good question. I knew I was going to be asked this question. So it was so long ago. It was about 2009 that I went for my PROSCI certification in the States. And it's not a big thing. I remember why I decided to do Citrix, because I saw software as a solution being a big thing, like long before it became a big thing. I mean, my career was started in technology, and then I became a project manager. Then I really started to work with building high-performing teams, because of course, as a project manager, you're responsible. Your success is dependent on your team. And it was working with multinationals and actually also experiencing good technical solutions not being adopted after a lot of money had been spent. It wasn't the project management that failed. Somehow, the users were just not carried along, or there wasn't a compelling reason. No obvious, walking the talk by leadership. And we just, good solutions were invested at a lot of money. You paid Microsoft a lot of money, paid SAP a lot of money, and systems were not used. And that was the introduction to, okay, this concept of change management that's really related to project management. And PROSCI have been the leaders for a long time. They still are. And, I went off to the States to do my 3-day certification to just learn more. And when I got there, because, my journey had been really working, when I moved back to Nigeria, I was in project management. One of the major things that started to happen when you do project management is you can train people to be great project managers, and they go back to the office and their executives will say things like, okay, well done, congratulations, just continue to do things that we used to do it before. And so one of the things we started to do as a company was to include an executive briefing, which focused on like the role of sponsors in successful project management as kind of like mandatory whenever we sold project management classes. And then the next thing that started to happen, the next challenge we were faced with was challenges of places where companies were doing projects that were not aligned to any strategy. So he helped me to make a move into strategy so that we could deliver strategy through projects. And then the next problem to solve was really about, okay, now that we are doing the right projects to deliver the company strategy, we're still falling down in getting adoption. And so, I don't think there is a huge difference between project and change management. I mean, when I started to do change management, I'll talk to people about, this is kind of like stakeholder management. That's one of the knowledge areas. This is about knowing your stakeholders and managing them, the external and the internal ones. I think one of the big challenges with change management is because we actually say when we do the PROSCI course, we're talking about 3 roles. There is a role for project management, which is to design, develop, and deliver a solution in whatever shape or form. The solution could be a corporate transformation, an organizational restructure. And that the role of sponsors is to lead and champion and walk the talk. And that the role of change management is to prepare the people that are going to be impacted by this change, the people that have to engage with this change in order for the company to realize the benefits is to prepare them to do what we call embrace, adopt, and use. So they are really just like roles. But the reality is, if it's a small project, one person, could really be the project manager and the change manager, because it basically means as I'm designing and developing the solution, I'm also doing the work to get the people that are going to use it on track. But the bigger the project gets, the tougher it becomes for one person to perform the role. And so one of the things we talk about is the concept of installation versus realization. So project managers might focus on getting installation benefits. The right solution has been delivered. But just delivering the right solution often does not get us the benefits. Delivering the right solution and having people engage correctly and proficiently with the right solution is what delivers the benefits. And so it's that role, and it's the fact that, you know, the more complex the project is, the more they're separated. Because imagine if you're a project manager and you want to implement SAP in your organization, an SAP module in your organization, and it's probably going to go live at the end of 2021, let's say, yeah? And like 18 months into the project, somebody is talking to you about user readiness assessment. If your goal is to deliver an integrated SAP module, you're focused on things like, okay, let's define the scope. Let's do certain things. Let's get the right vendor. Let's start to procure hardware. Let's set up a proof of concept. And really, unless you are aware of the benefits of change management and the fact that the system itself, when it is installed, if people are not using it and using it correctly, those cost savings or efficiency savings or improvements will never be realized. But, you know, the bigger the project gets, the focus of project managers is to deliver a solution. The focus of change management is to make sure that people engage and use it, and they use it proficiently. Because it's that realization that the system by itself is not going to make us better. It's not going to make us run faster. The system, when it's engaged by the workforce and they're using it properly, is what's going to deliver the results. Then it's just roles and a bit of a difference in focus that really is important. But
I can't,
as a project manager, I talk about something called, even though project managers, we are supposed to plan, we still suffer from a bias for action to just start doing. And when I start doing, somebody's telling me to think about users, how are they going to be impacted differently? And I'm like thinking, we will cross that bridge when we get to it. But it's not productive. And maybe sometimes it's when you've got your fingers burnt a few times that you realize that, okay, we're spending 2 million. We're supposed to achieve this purpose.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no consequence, then, you know, then we start to do things differently.
And I remember the publication by PMI. I think the first time they published it was 2011. That PMI Pulse of Profession, where they talked about the percentage of project budget that gets wasted just for poor adoption of the output of the project, and that's what I just hear from everything you've said here. The first time they published that, I think it was about 14 cents for every dollar that was spent on the project. A bigger number, that would be about $140 million wasted of every $1 billion spent on project just for poor adoption and poor alignment to digital to strategic objectives of the organization. So I see how this would prompt a lot of investment you must have put in at the time. My Nigerian background tells me if someone traveled all the way from Nigeria to the States to go get a certification, it was a really serious business, right? Um, so, what would you say are the bragging points or bragging rights for getting involved with this profession? What would be your key points when advising people from other profession, PMs, BAs, and just anyone doing whatever they do for their organization?
Okay. I mean, I think something that's really fundamental is this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even with the pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many businesses, maybe there are some that just make selfish decisions, right? But let's assume that majority of businesses, enterprises, organizations, when they decide to go paperless or decide to deploy a new software, a new way of doing things, right? That they are anticipating some benefits, right? Cost savings, improvements, higher impact if you're an NGO, and all of those kind of things. And I mean, I ran a certification class last week, and people were talking to me about design thinking and agile. And I said to them, we can talk about how change management really sits very well within an agile framework and also in design thinking. Because I think as long as we continue to make changes so that we can become better, and as long as people are involved, so even if you're a business analyst, if you're a programmer, if you're doing agile and still doing waterfall, even design thinking, what you are working on for your enterprise or for your customers, focus groups are an adaptation within change management, except that now the people you're trying to carry along are external stakeholders. Yeah. So as long as we continue to try and improve and make changes and people are involved, we're emotional. We have to react to things. Oftentimes we talk about making a change and we really will talk about the features of the change. We need to start understanding that if you want people to come along with you on the change journey, and when I say the change journey, it could be like going paperless in an organization and reducing your cost of doing business by 20%, which is very interesting to the CFO. Those kind of things are an inherent part of business. Do you understand? We're always doing that. You seldom spend money to become worse. You seldom spend money or make project or portfolio investments so that you can do things worse than you used to do it before. So if you're a business analyst, there's some part of your work that's really related to the business being more efficient. And as long as people are involved, change management is that side that focuses on whatever solutions we are part of bringing about, whatever change we are part of bringing about. We help the people. We create a bonding platform that causes them to want to be excited and that causes them to want to own that change and and drive it for us. So that's really what change management brings to the table. As long as people are involved and we're trying to seek and obtain some benefits, how do we get these people to work for the project? And that's why I keep talking about, the pandemic is a fantastic example. Okay, and so our job is how do we tend to forget people. We tend to focus on the solutions. And if I am initiating a change, most times I'm convinced about why it's needed. However, as an initiator of the change, my focus should not be on myself. It should be on the people. You're designing a product for your customers. You need to look at where they're going. How am I going to get them to form long queues outside Apple before we release the next iPhone? It's because at the end of the day, people don't engage and don't change the way they work, then we're not going to get any change. And the same thing applies to social change. Governmental change, NGO implications. People, how do we get people to say, I believe in this, I want to do this, I want to have a stake in this? And that's the underlying thing. And most of the jobs we do really are about helping people to do things differently and helping to move our organizations forward. So it underlines those things.
Thank you. So, I'm beginning to think that with all the interconnectedness that you find between project management and some of these related fields with change management, how that you really can succeed so massively as a project professional without some change management skill like you've articulated. Do you think there is any entry advantage that someone with a project management credential has to the world of PROSCI, or maybe a business analyst or some people who already are throwing the part of leading change in organizations?
I mean, you know, if you look at PMI, the organization PMI, right? I mean, PMI recognizes in a lot of things that PMI has been doing. I mean, you know, you may know that PMI actually have a standard, the change management standard. Yeah, it's probably in the 5th or 7th edition. It's a change management standard because as the premier, I would say, body of project management, they recognize, you know, when you talk about benefits realization means you need to know about change management. So as a change manager, right, as a project manager or business analyst, just understanding, you know, so I mean, PROSA has some courses. So there's a module called Projects Delivering Results, which really is focused on how do you help project managers to understand the work of change management and to value it, to really understand how it plays into what they are doing. Because when project managers realize that we are not just developing the solution for the sake of developing the solution, we are developing the solution so that people can embrace, adopt, and use it, and that it is when we achieve that marriage between installation and people and adoption that we actually get the result. You know, as a core project manager, that all you just done is project management, the closest thing that will come to your mind will be around stakeholder management. But stakeholder management is not as in-depth as this other side of getting the people side of projects. So an awareness would not, you know, it will just help you to become better, because it means as you're starting to look at the project, you're saying things like, okay, really, yes, these are the features of the projects. These are the technical deliverables. How am I going to help the people? How am I going to work with the other group of people in the company that are dealing with the people side? It just changes your mindset. You're not as dismissive. You know, a project manager that doesn't really understand what change managers do can be really dismissive and disrespectful when you're asked to participate in readiness assessments, because you just think, you know, what's going on? You know, we're not even near knowing who the vendor is. Why should we be doing this other stuff? So that awareness, you know, as long as you know, like maybe when you start your career as a project manager, lower levels, first few years, you're just doing project leadership, you're doing the work breakdown structure, and you're doing the schedule. As you start to advance in that career, you're doing a lot of talking to the sponsors, a lot of focus, and especially when you're a program manager, starts to shift to money. Are we getting the results, benefits realization, and all of those other areas? So maybe for the first 2 years, when you're really just doing project leading and developing WPS and risk registers and those tools of project management, you might be okay to not really care about change management because somebody else is doing that. But as you move and you start having responsibility for like a whole project, and that project is supposed to achieve, you know, 20% reduction in cost of operations, this level of penetration then, you know, at that time, you want to know about change management, because the moment you start getting measured on the result, on business results, and people are involved, then you need to start going beyond just delivering the solution and looking at, okay, how do we prepare these people to be ready to take it on? And I think it's the same for business analysts, and I know definitely for even software developers at the moment need to understand the implications that in the moment you are being responsible for the delivery of benefits to the business, which are measurable, then you should get more involved in like the people side. When nobody's holding you, you know, there's a time you start and your job is just really basic, you know, then maybe you can escape it, but it's still good to understand. That's what I would say. Because the reason I am passionate and I do change management is it has a very direct relationship with our ability to get results from whatever initiative. So for every dollar we spend, you know, because I always talk to people about you have portfolio prioritization. So everybody fights and somebody says, okay, you give me 2 million, I'll deliver these things to the business. So they now select the top ones, right? And some projects are not selected. So, but a lot of those projects require not just the technical solution, they require the people side. And that's what makes change management interesting to me. It's about when we have to focus on results, then we have to focus on the people that have to report to them. I hope that clarifies.
Great. There are so many questions that I still have on my plate, but in the interest of time, I'll probably
see
just
some of my friends on this call. My friend from FIRS, he knows himself.
They followed you here. Nice one.
Good to see him.
So how do we get involved? How does anyone get involved? What's the entry point to the world of PROSCI?
It's actually fairly straightforward, right? Because they have all-encompassing methodology. So it's really, you know, getting certified to say you understand change management. You can work, you know, as a change management consultant. The best thing to do is, you know, doing the 3-day certification program. Because the design of the 3-day certification program is you come in, ideally you are working on a change initiative. So, you know, they say adults learn better when, you know, the concept of project-based learning is becoming common everywhere. So you come in with a project and then you do some pre-work, and I've taken the PROSCI course, and you do some, Fisayo says she's taking the PROSCI course. You do some pre-work, and it's a very intense 3 days where you're getting to see the marriage, the interrelationship between project and change management, the role of sponsors. How do we engage sponsors? How do we engage other people in the organization? I did the 3-day course. It's very intense. When I say it's very intense, the reason I say that is if I'm running a 3-day course, right, and we start on Monday, on Tuesday, I am honestly feeling that it's Thursday because of the sheer volume. It's a very engaging program. Some of these people on the course can testify to that. It's a very engaging program, but it means you come out on the 3rd day if you pass the certification exam, which I tell people you can pass as long as you attend and you pay attention and all of those kind of things. And then you also work out with a toolkit. That means as a consultant, not only do you have the knowledge, you have templates, you have assessment tools, and you can walk into a company and you can really start to help them to pay attention to getting people engaged and excited and competent. So we talk about the introduction of ADCAR model, and the ADCAR model is a change. This is how people change. For people to change successfully and interface successfully with any new way of working, they need to know why. Why is this change needed? What's the risk of not changing? And you see the pandemic just puts that out there. Boom, it's there. Nobody needs to tell you. Do you understand? However, when there isn't a pandemic, how do you let people know why the change is needed and the risk of not changing? Because you need to, because a lot of times we just focus on what the features of the change are. So that's really the fastest way to get involved. The 3-day certification, you join a group of people who are PROSCI certified practitioners. And the beauty of PROSCI truly is that they're focused. They're not trying to do too many things. So companies like McKinsey, Accenture, they recognize and they actually just train their consultants on the PROSCI methodology. It's almost like why reinvent the wheel. I mean, there is, and PROSCI really started the Association of Change Management Professionals. It's a conference that PROSCI used to do regularly that they kind of like handed over to Association of Change Management Professionals. We're having a chapter in Nigeria very soon. And, it's the 3-day certification is an easy way to get in if you really want to be able to kind of like also function as a change management consultant. There are other things to do, like, if I'm leading a project team, I could just get my staff to go on a 1-day course, projects delivering results, for instance. So PROSCI have what they call role-based training. So for the people that are project managers that may want to be consultants, then they have to go for the certification. But in my company, if I really needed to equip our sponsors, our executives to lead change, then I'll probably send them on a 1-day sponsor workshop. There's also another program that's called Projects Delivering Results, which again says for project managers that are going to be project managers, but they want to understand how change management impacts them, then they go on that so that they can begin to appreciate and support. But really, ultimately, there is one globally recognized certification, and that's for the consultants or the practitioners. And that just gives you everything to be an external change management consultant or an internal change management consultant, because you have the tool and you can use it. I think there was a comment from Fisayo in the chat box. Yeah, look at Fisayo's comment. I totally agree. Oh, fantastic. Somebody talks about agile and waterfall.
Okay. So I'll take you up on the idea that the certification prepares you to be like a change consultant. So are there takeaways that participants at the training get to go with that makes them job ready for the job of a change manager right from the training? What are those resources? And tell us more.
Okay, so let me read a comment from Fisayo, which captures, right, the essence. She says, I have taken I assume Fisayo is a lady, right?
Yep.
Well, one cannot assume, like, be 100% sure. She says, I have taken the PROSCI course and it's pretty immersive. That's a better word. That's a great word. It's pretty immersive, but it's more important to do the work hands-on. Toolkit and a box of books to study, real valuable. So in terms of actually being able to come out, so a lot of the people that actually come on the PROSCI course when the certification started, and the profile of majority of the people will be people that you're a project manager, and then all of a sudden you have to be the change manager for this project, and it's an ERP implementation. Okay, go and do PROSCI. So the idea is it's a workshop where you have a project that you're working on that you need to deliver something on, and you come in. So you come in with that project. The 3 days you spend on the course, you are just developing the plans. So we teach a concept, and the moment you apply the concept to whatever project you brought to the class, if you don't have your own project, because it's probably a lot of work for each delegate to work on their own project, then we can group people. We usually would group people together to work on one project. So you learn and you are able to go out. Like, it will be fantastic if you do the 3-day course and then you go out and start working as a change manager tomorrow. I mean, you have a lot of momentum and you have the toolkit and you have the whole PROSCI ecosystem available to you if you need help. So there is a lot you can come out with it. If I really wanted to make a detour into change and I wanted, the certification is recognized, but the ability to take it out with the tools and actually start to apply is very high because of the design of the course. It's very high. You have the toolkit. It's almost like you do your PMP and you have templates, so that you come out, you have your scope statement, and and then you have some other assessments that you can just deploy as an individual.
Great. Just a quick one. Yeah. Just a quick one. Are you aware if PMI awards PDUs for its credential holders for this training, and how many PDUs do they get?
Yeah, PMI, like to award PDUs, you have to be an ATP, right?
Okay.
I believe it's ATP. So it is. So one answer is it is definitely recognized by PMI. So the PROSCI course is recognized by PMI. So when PROSCI do the course, you get the PDU's equivalent is 20. Is equivalent to like two or 3 days.
Okay.
And our company is an ATP, so we can award PDUs. I say an ATP because we've gotten it already. We're just waiting to announce it later on. So we can award PDUs. But the PROSCI course is, PROSCI, the company, can award PDUs for that course. It's recognized.
Great.
Hi, Fisayo. How are you?
So, do you have any estimation of how this certification impacts employability of thank you, Fisayo. Fisayo says it's 14 PDUs. Great.
Thank you. 7.
Yeah. I think we need to pull Fisayo to another conversation when Deji's gone, right? Voila. Yeah. So, do you have estimation of how this certification impacts employability of individuals when they get it? By your experience, by experiences of people that you have trained and mentored over the years.
Okay, so one should not unconsciously market, right? So let me tell you some of the stories I've heard, right? So a guy told me that he actually decided to come for a certification because he had like 2 job offers. He's an experienced SAP change manager, but there's some big companies that really have deployed. There are quite a few companies that have deployed PROSCI as their as their way of doing change management. So he said he went for an interview, gotten the job, and a CIO called from the States and said, "Oh, you are PROSCI certified, right?" And then he said, "No, I'm not." And said, "Oh, okay, we'll get back to you." And he lost it. So that's one person. It's recognized. And one of the things I say is if you want to know whether what you want to spend money on is recognized or not, just I do a Google search. I do a job search. I look for PROSCI. I look for ADCA. And it does come up pretty well because it's far ahead of whatever else is out there. People recognize it. I think if you're in the project, if you're in delivery space, it also cuts across, is it HR? If you're an HR person and you have the PROSCI certification, is it doing strategy and you have the PROSCI certification? Is it business analyst? Is it people that are working on benefits realization? And we've had a lot of project managers also come to do it because I really think as you start to advance in your project management career, it's a tool that will just enhance your relevance. I think one of the big things for me, one of the things I realized as well, that probably made me start to pay more attention to change management. I'm still a project manager. because at the end of the day, we're trying to deliver results, right? But I don't know whether you've noticed this, how project managers are, executives don't, Mr. Sunil Prashara of PMI is doing a fantastic job to get executives to recognize the value of project management. But in Nigeria, in the UK, at some point, project management is not as recognized as change management to business leaders. And the reason is, I think the reason is to do with change management. We're talking about realization of business benefits straight away. And we're talking about optimizing that. And we're talking directly to sponsors. We're talking about the role of sponsors in making change. So I think it automatically gets you to a higher level of stakeholders. And that's been my experience. And that's kind of like why I'm still a project manager. But change management is, what gets me to do a sponsor workshop. And I spend one day with decision makers. Because, at that level, it's like, look, we spend this amount of money on SAP and, we're not getting benefits. Our users are not using it. They don't necessarily first and foremost go to the project managers when they have those kind of issues. And so that, I'm a project manager. I don't see myself as no longer a project manager, a project director, or whatever you want to call yourself, program manager. It has that thing of, maybe the same level of visibility as if you do benefits realization. They recognize that change management is tightly linked to benefits realization. And then, one of your key stakeholder groups that you talk to as a change manager is sponsors. So I'll hold sponsor workshops. I love them. I love them because, I've got the decision makers in the room. And one of the reasons when I went to change management was really to say, okay, we can help you to improve benefits realization. But you get to talk to decision makers, and then we can say, okay, yeah, we have a project team to deliver the project. But get their attention, because you talk to sponsors in change management more than majority of project managers will get that level of visibility. So that's one of the things I have noticed. And PROSCI is, I'm honestly not marketing now, is leading, and they are leading for a good reason. And, we haven't seen anything yet. And they have done a lot of work to say, when you talk about agile, we still don't do agile. We don't adopt agile to not deliver benefits to the business. Even when we use agile techniques and we become an agile organization, we still have to deliver benefits. So PROSCI have weaved the concepts of PROSCI into the agile methodology as well.
Yeah, thank you for that detailed information. You already tipped us off that your organization, AfriSense, is now an ATP. We have just about 4 minutes to the end of the official 1 hour for this session. So can you tell us about AfriSense and the models of the training that you deliver, if you do deliver remote training, and how organizations from Canada or North America can partner with your organization to deliver this training to their people?
It's a virtual world. So I have a standing desk, and a lot of organizations have actually done a pivot and are able to deliver. And PROSCI have a very, very, very good, very good program that we deliver virtually over 3 days. So we do the PROSCI certification over 3 days virtually, because people are not going to be able to travel for some time. So we deliver all the PROSCI courses. We can deliver all the PROSCI courses. And also being PMI ATPs, we will be doing courses on disciplined agile mostly, and the new PMI, the new PMP certification from next year. But yes, we can work remotely. We can work with organizations. We cannot do like in-person physical programs in Canada because we're not based in Canada. But we can work with organizations anywhere. So those are some of the possibilities.
Great. Are there prerequisites or restrictions for those who might want to get the PROSCI training?
The PROSCI certification, it's good. It's really like, best thing is you have a project you're working on or you're willing to learn. It's a very intense 3 days. We'll send you some pre-work, which brings you up on the concepts. So you read a book on ADCAR, you have some project description. If you're not privileged to have a project that you're working on, then of course, one of the things you could really do is understand that as long as you complete the pre-work, read the books that introduces you to the concepts, then the application can be done, as you work on somebody, on the project of one of your colleagues in the class. Because the ideal situation is not for one person to work on their project by themselves. It's easier and better because of the volume of work for maybe 3 people to work on the project. So if you read the pre-course work and you're willing to do a lot of work for the 3 days, that's it really. I mean, there are no prerequisites more than that, because, it's very immersive and maybe one can argue that there's some level of education that's required, but they haven't specified because it's about your experience. If you've been a project manager for some time, if you've been doing development for some time, then, the process is robust. And if you sign up and participate in the 3 days, you can learn a lot. Majority of people would learn a lot.
Well, just before I open the platform to questions from the participants, Mr. Deji, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I know that you're quite visible on LinkedIn. What ways do you think people can connect with you? If possible, we can post your LinkedIn profile on the chat. And
yeah, my LinkedIn profile and my email really good enough, and people can follow our company. Yeah. Ha. Have you seen the communication from Mr. Last Mazambani? I hear that a lot.
Bola, do you want to open the chat room and then start to field questions from there?
Right. Yeah, we can start that. So we have a question from, well, the last question that we got is from Mr. Last, and
I love that.
And it says, I understand the competitiveness of PROSCI, but the cost is quite substantial. So it's more like a comment, but do you want to speak to that, Mr.?
I'll be a millionaire if I got money for every time I get this, right? But Mr. Last, let me say something that's really beautiful. So, a part of it is I really, you talk about understanding the competitiveness of PROSCI, okay? So it's a market leader, right? And one of the things that I think people don't realize when they look at the cost, I'm not trying to make anything, and we have an agreement with H.O.P.S on what we can do in terms of costing. But one of the things is, is really that capability, to compare. You get a software. When you become a PROSCI certified practitioner, you actually have a software that's of substantial value. But, you don't really see that. So you pay for the material, you pay for the experience, but you also have a software. It's almost like buying a copy of Microsoft Office. So you get that software that has tools that are now online. So I that came to me one day. I was like, oh yeah, when people say it is this, they're comparing it to things like APMG and other stuff, but you don't, so that's substantial, because that means you're plugged into the ecosystem. So that part itself, it's substantial, but people don't see it. So when you're comparing it to other things, there is a tendency to miss that. But in terms of cost being substantial, when we now bring it down to the other components, I cannot disagree with you, but I can say that we have a potentially good possibility with H.O.P.S if you do something with them.
Right. Thank you for that. There's another question from Samuel. It says, would you recommend the PROSCI course for fresh project managers?
That is a difficult question, you know what I mean? Difficult question. But you see, I think I think, you know, people like Fisayo and Lamidi Rashid could also talk to this. I wouldn't not recommend it, right? Because project management, the role of project managers is actually different from the role of change managers. There's some level of interconnectedness. So you can actually just be, you know, so you might just find that you're so passionate about what change management offers, and that's it for you. But you have a project management background. That's what you know, that's what you've done up until that time. If you think you like to work with people, if you think you like the rigor, if you think you have some aspect, you know, I think change management from the onset is more business aligned. So like if I'm a change manager today, I probably have a faster track to executive visibility. You know, if both of us, if somebody starts as project manager today and somebody starts as change manager today, I think the change manager has a faster track to executive visibility, because before you know it, it's like, okay, we are not achieving the levels of adoption we require. They don't talk to the project manager about that. So that's something I have seen, and that's something that helped me to say, you know what, let me use the change management route to get to the executives. And then I'll say to them, oh, we can do project management as well. But that change management route is, you know, it's like, yeah. So that's what I would say. Yeah. So yes, you can do it, because if you can do project management, then you can do change management. But that's the benefit. But again, depends on what you like, really. But you wouldn't lose, really, because you now have two skill sets, and then they can take you. It would always give you an advantage. You know, a project manager that understands change management, or a project manager that just understands project management. I will go for the one that understands change management.
All right, cool. Thank you, sir. I have another question from Rimzim. Hopefully, that's the correct pronunciation of your name. I want to know more about change management in Agile versus Waterfall.
I mentioned this earlier, and the point is, PROSCI, you know, this is common. Even when you use Waterfall, you still have to deliver business benefits. So there's actually a one-day course, right, that PROSCI have done for over 2 years now, that talks about how you apply change management to sprints. And what you've got to really understand is, at the end of the day, it's still about delivering business benefits, except that your time scale for delivering business benefits are kind of like more rapid in Agile, but you still have to deliver the benefits, and you still have to get the people. So there's a customization of it. I don't have any that I can show you. There's a customization of it, and it works with Agile quite well. And that's what I was saying, that I had a group of people who were certifying on the 3-day course recently, and I promised to give them a 1 hour or 2 hour session on change on PROSCI and Agile, because there is such a course. If you go to their website, there's a 1-day course on PROSCI in Agile environments. Because at the end of the day, Agile is supposed to deliver benefits.
Okay, another question that I have was sent to me privately. Says, would you recommend PROSCI to business analysts involved in digital transformation projects?
Well, if you're involved in digital transformation, even if you're involved in digital transformation, you should, it's a must. It's a must. The pandemic has made it less of a must, because everybody will just get along. But digital transformation, I talk to CIOs, they say it's 80% of people, 20% technology. Getting the people to adopt it. It's, digital transformation, there's a lot of technology, can do a lot of stuff, but you have to get the people on board. So yes, digital transformation It's probably one of the biggest, it's the biggest reason why people ask for PROSCI, actually. It's the biggest reason. Because you're changing a lot of things and you want some. You don't go on a digital transformation journey to get minimal, you don't go on digital transformations to get, what's this word? To get, to move. You want radical improvement.
Deploy patches to software or something like that.
Yeah. You do digital transformation for radical improvements, not stepwise improvements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't. You do it for radical improvements. And if you get the people side wrong, it could be very costly. Very costly. I've been in situations where we've had to kill SAP projects because they just didn't do the change management properly, and other similar situations.
Okay, we do not have any other question. We just got a comment from Fisayo. Been a great informational session. Thanks for putting it together. I was gonna say Uncle Deji. While he was speaking, I was setting some questions. So we have just 5 to 6 questions that we want to sort of attempt in a game format. I'm sure everybody here knows how to play Kahoot. Hopefully. All right, so just go on your.
So this is Bola's polite way of putting people to the test. So this is an exam, guys.
In a relaxed way. Yeah, I love Kahoot. Yeah. So just go on your phone.
Noni is online.
So just go on your phone. Go to kahoot.it. And I'm going to show you the pin. So just give me a minute. I'm going to bring my. Okay, so this is the pin. It's going to ask you for a pin. So this is the pin. I'm going to stop recording.
But I'm not going to CNN. So really, thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much on behalf of H.O.P.S and everybody. We want to say a very big thank you. Deji Ishmael.
Thank you, sir. Well done.
Thank you so much for honoring the invitation. Just like Ty was saying, I remember growing up as a project manager in Nigeria, we always look up to you like, oh, that's like grand patron of project management. And but it was a privilege. It's a privilege having you share with our community. We really appreciate that. We say thank you so very much. And we will be in touch soon. I also want to say thank you to everyone that's attended this session today. I gained a lot, and I'm very confident that a lot of people also gain a lot of things from the session. We will, once we get the confirmation from Deji Ishmael, we will share the recording with the people that are in attendance, and we'll also communicate with you further. That will be it for this session of our Fireside Chat. I was going to say helping other people succeed. Thank you so very much, and have a good evening. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.